Welcome back to the First Last podcast from the First, the Last, the Nerdum, where this month we've thrown caution to the wind and maybe our sanity as well. With Psycho Summer all month long, we're exploring films that venture into the minds of killers, psychopaths, and the dangerously unstable. These are movies where evil isn't always hiding in the shadows. It might just be riding shotgun. And this week we're hitting the open road with the 1993 psychological thriller California, directed by Dominic Sena. California follows a journalist and his photographer girlfriend as they travel across America searching infamous murder sites for a book. To save money, they invite another couple, always a good idea, to share the ride. There's just one problem. Their new traveling companions, Early Grace, isn't fascinated by serial killers. He is one. Featuring memorable performances from Brad Pitt, Juliette Lewis, David Duchovny, and Michelle Forbes, California is part road movie, part character study, and part nerve-wracking thriller. It slowly builds tension while mile after mile as personalities clash, suspicions grow, and danger becomes impossible to ignore. We'll be talking about Brad Pitt's unforgettable performance as a deeply unsettling Early Grace, the film's exploration of violence, obsession, and why California remains an overlooked gem of 90s psychological thrillers. So buckle up, keep your eyes on the road, and maybe think twice before answering a rideshare ad from the newspaper. So grab a hold of a Reeb, and this is the First Last podcast. Psycho Summer rolls on with California.
Masterclass, my friend. No, I love that. I love that because nowadays you can just get a serial killer by app, by Uber or Lyft.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So right, your app. Yeah, it is literally 1,000 miles in a Lincoln Continental with the man who kills people the way most people take out the trash. we'll, we'll get into there,
Well,
but
yes.
first. Me and Tom are going to pay the bills here. What does that mean? Well, it means that this wonderful thumbnail that Tom made for the show for this week. We also have a YouTube or excuse me, a website that you can go peruse, FirstLastNerdum.com. And then also on home base, primarily on YouTube. You can find us in all of our 377 videos. They're out there, and shorts and live broadcasts as well at First Last Nerdum. And as always, I think, Tom, you have something going on the other side of the world here, social media world, anyway.
Yeah, I'm on Reddit, where I post, I found a Terrence Malick, subreddit that I posted our Badlands on, but yeah, so I try to find the Reddits that, pertain to what we're talking about that week and post on it. Sometimes, the Reddit gods deem it worthy, sometimes it gets banned and, deleted, so there you go. I'm on there under First Last Nerdum if you're coming over from there, hello. I'm also on X under First Last Nerdum, where I promoter stuff, and then I'll maybe do some odds and ends of weird things that I might find that out there in the cultural and multimedia landscape. But yeah, Mike, you have some social media as well.
I do.
Mhm.
I too am also on X. You can find me, and occasionally Tom and I will, if we find something of interest, we'll bat it back and forth, or bring it in and cover it. Sometimes that happens too, occasionally. But yeah, I am at Sofa King Jewish _ on X, and also on YouTube at Sofa King Jewish. I got to do more stuff with that stuff, but social media is not my forte. I like to talk about stuff and show and tell, just like every other person on the world. But this one, Tom, before we get too deep, I got to ask, you had the bead right on when you first heard that we're going to do California, um, you know, what was your history with this one? Cause I'm always fascinated with it. Cause this one, I'm a David Duchovny fan. I am a Brad Pitt fan, and all the time. And then, I'm here a fully formed grown adult, and I had found this one, and I had been unaware of it before. But how about you? You usually
Yeah.
have a better track record with history with these things than I do.
Yeah, and, I guess I go a little bit further back than you, but yeah, no, I was
Just a
a
little
David
bit.
Duchovny, just a tad. Yeah, I was a X-Files fan, so I was, big into David Duchovny. This one
Yes,
seemed
you got it.
interesting to me. I don't think I saw it in the theater. I don't have a recollection of seeing it in the theater. I think I picked it up on DVD when it came out, so, I did see it when it roughly about the time it came out, and I remember enjoying it, but I didn't have a real clear memory of it. I'd just seen it that once on DVD. So yeah, this is probably either my second or third viewing of this. But yeah, I hadn't seen it a lot. So yeah, it was almost like watching it anew. But yeah,
Okay.
there was a lot of stuff that came back to me. So I must have seen it more than once. But yeah, it's one of those movies that I'm aware of, but I didn't have like a clear vision of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do recall being a big David Duchovny fan, not necessarily in the '90s because I was a kid, but I do recall when I became of age, in other words, a later teenager, and I
Hmm.
would uh, obviously naturally attracted to X Files, and then later on, anything that the main stars would do that you kind of heard about that you heard you would want to know
Hmm.
about. That unfortunately is a little bit too young for this one. For that one, that was no, I wasn't like I mean I wasn't a baby at all, but I definitely wasn't at the age to to get a full eye full of this. But nevertheless, I was going to say too. Also, you had picked up on the Starkweather DNA when we did Badlands. Do you think
Hmm.
that, that California, is a descendant of that, or is it doing its own thing? I mean, I know we had tried
Hmm.
to kind of we the Bonnie and Clyde on the run kind of thing, but
Hmm.
it mixed up in a little bit different context with, murder spree, essentially. Like where we had invoked natural born killers and some other ones that had come
Hmm.
out or whatever. Where do you fall on that one? Because, one, uh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was very curious to see here because I think that as we do these series, I think they get more interesting as we have a little bit more of the shows or the movies
Yeah.
to talk about to kind of compare
Hmm.
it, stack against. But Psycho, like
Hmm.
I think 7 was like, Murder with a Plan, and then
Hmm.
Badlands was more of like Murder with no brains,
Hmm.
just kinda just, like, there's just no rhyme or reason, just on the way, and then we kinda touched back on the here, but anyway, I'll be quiet because I did ask you a question.
Yeah, no, 7 well, yeah, it was, we kinda add layers to the stuff that we watch. Because yeah, we started the Psycho Summer with Brad Pitt as the detective, and, we end it with him being the killer. So, which this movie actually comes before 7. This is, very early in his career.
It
But
is.
yeah, so yeah, and yeah, like I said, we had a very planned killer in 7.
Right.
We had a more of a yeah, sort of a murder by happenstance in Badlands,
Mhm.
and then with and yeah, the last two of them, Badlands and this one, is both kind of road movies. Both have voiceovers, and
Mhm.
yeah, this one's more violent and in your face, and kind of explores the very blatantly explores the public's fascination with serial
It
killers and whether or
it
not that's healthy or not.
it does. It now I know now generally speaking, we generally don't dip
Which
our toe into
actually
the
yeah,
eh
and just to add before you go back,
yeah, yeah, sure.
Badlands was also exploration of our fascination with killers as well, because
Absolutely. Yep.
Starkweather was yeah, but yeah, go back.
Well, yeah, and to for the audience that would with the kinda shortcut what we're talking about, the Badlands here, that killer was he prototyped himself after or fancied himself, at least in the movie version, like a James Dean, a young, up and coming, hip, cool guy, cool cat who could just do whatever he wanted,
Mhm,
literally
mhm,
whatever he wanted, and he did,
mhm,
and then they made a movie about it, essentially, or
mhm,
inspired by it, but
mhm,
for the most part, but going back to California, the this one, I love David Duchovny and when he narrates. Like there's just something about his because he does it quite a bit. It's kind of like his shtick. He always ends up kind of being able to do that, doing some kind of a voiceover word. Or anyway, but it adds to the oomph of it. It's definitely it sets the stage for like, oh my god, these people are clueless. Like, and that's essentially what happens, which is also, I think, kind of a mirror of kind of how the real world is set up. In other words, you have a serial killer and you also have to have innocence. Now, this movie didn't that had nothing to do with this. This movie. This is more of of a how we think and feel, and then we're going to go through life's experience, and then how we think and feel after the fact. When we go through this, yeah, this movie is not shy. It has its own kind of beauty with the road trip. And it is on the road. And they start on the East Coast, presumably somewhere out east, and then I think it's Pittsburgh, I think. But anyway, they end up going to California. Is the I just get that confused. Was it Louisville? Anyway, I'll throw it back to you and say where you come in on this guy and because I absolutely love the beauty of the 90s. Just
Yeah.
the little touches of the hallmarks of the era and kind of like I wouldn't say it had a noir feel at all, but it did have kind of like a little bit of a when's the shoe gonna drop? Kinda
Had a sheen of a Belle Biv DeVoe video, music video. It's very 90s, especially in the David Duchovny and his girlfriend's apartment. I was waiting for Belle Biv DeVoe to jump out and start singing. But no, no, very 90s, very 90s. Yeah, it's very very much a product of its time, and yeah, it was kind of exploring the whole psychological thriller at the time. You had Single White Female, you had Silence of the Lambs, you had all that stuff kind of in the cultural zeitgeist. It was this movie was I read a bomb. I couldn't remember if it was successful or not, but doesn't look like it was. But yeah, so but yeah, it's I think unfortunately it coming after Badlands. Badlands is such a poetic, interesting movie with a very poetic voiceover. I liked David Duchovny's voice, but the voiceover in this doesn't add what the other
well,
voiceover adds
it
to
it doesn't have the same
it.
it doesn't have the same punch,
Mhm.
as and punch, even though you could argue the Badlands, the voiceover there was a little bit more flat and not as emotional, like, whereas Duchovny he's a little bit there's a lot more tone and richness in his voice than there ever was but it doesn't make sense because I mean,
Well, in
it's a different
Badlands, yeah.
it's a different feel
Uh-huh,
of it, whereas the
uh-huh.
Terrence Malick, that's but Badlands is just artwork. It's beauty of a
Yeah,
certain kind, like that
yeah.
is but anyway, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, the voiceover in Badlands is there's like that there maybe not overtly emotional, but
Right.
in what she says and what she doesn't say,
That's right.
there's that layer of
That emotion,
ambiguity
right.
that you have to kind of pull out,
Mhm.
and you have to compare the visuals with what she's saying and dig out the actual truth of the two things, which makes you more active in this. Than in this movie's a little bit more on the nose with everything.
Mhm.
Like the fact that he's writing a or trying to write a book about serial killers, and a serial killer just happens to be on the road with him. The pickup. There's a lot of coincidences. They later on they end up at a rich person's house, much like in Badlands. And evidently the guy was mixed up with the making of the nuclear bomb, and then the last centerpiece of the movie, not to get too spoilery, but it's like one of those bomb sites. Well, yeah, with the little fake house and the fake people in it and whatnot. So
Right.
the fact that I guess I don't know if you were involved with making the nuclear bomb, you would be that close to a site like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
It
it
just
kinda
there's a lot of questions.
yeah, this is the one that, like, where you pick up the case and you go. You're not really stopping for too long. I mean, you stop a little bit in the first part of the movie to kinda get your
Mhm,
bearings and whatnot, and also too, I believe that this movie came out when he was filming this, or at least when this movie came out, I think it came out in the fall of '93. But anyway,
mhm.
after about a week or 2 later, that's when X-Files, would, premiere and would change everything in his life, then but
Ah, mhm,
kinda going back to this, yeah,
mhm.
this is it's hard to kinda put they're good performances. I don't think that we got the very best out of every single person, I'll put that way, but that doesn't
Uh-huh,
mean that doesn't mean we got bad either, at all.
mhm,
So the acting with everything was good. This is a young Brad Pitt, and it's kind of like whereas also kind of funny with when we started with Seven, like whereas Brad Pitt was trying to walk away from his sex symbol, kind of, just or at least being just a handsome leading man to something
mhm,
more, something else.
mhm,
He did. This was before that, so
mhm, mhm.
he's a little bit more. You can kind of see a little bit more of his savagery come out in other performances that are maybe take a little bit of this and wind it up in there. I don't know, but I do know that Michelle Forbes and we have a young Juliette Lewis as well.
Mhm.
And for this for the gearing for the audience and the you have two couples in this car trip that they take on the rideshare program as Tom winded up earlier, and you have Brad Pitt, early Grace, and you have Juliette Lewis, Adele Corners, who's his girlfriend, and then you have Dave Duchovny and Michelle Forbes. Carrie Laughlin is his girlfriend, and they go on this trip, and
Mhm,
slowly but surely, kind of things and as whereas you kinda had to guess, and you were kinda sorta part of the camera, I get or you were there for Badlands, but for this, you see you there's nothing held back.
mhm.
You know?
Yeah, yeah, and you know straight away that Early's up to no good. Yeah, and then you got Brad Pitt and Juliette Lewis as the couple, Early and, Adele. They were actually a couple in real life at the time. The director, when they was casting, didn't know that, but yeah. So, yeah, it's kinda interesting to compare, you know, how we keep kinda, with Badlands still in our minds, we keep reflecting back on it, which had Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek as the, titular, serial killer and girlfriend. Whereas Sissy Spacek's character in Badlands was kind of young, but wise beyond her years. Adele is maybe a little bit older, but maybe stupider among her years. No, more childlike, and
Yeah, sure.
innocent. Or I mean, it's almost like a forced innocence.
Mhm.
You later learn that she's had sort of a violent and traumatic existence, and Early kind of provides even though he's a bit of a danger, he's sort of like a protective danger against the bigger dangers that she sees out in the world. So she kind of clings to him. But yeah, there's an interesting dynamic there. And then you've got Brian, played by David Duchovny, who's trying to be a writer. He's written articles. He's trying to write a book, but he's struggling with how to write that. And he has I don't know if she's a successful photographer either, because she's having trouble selling her stuff
Yeah,
too.
I think I think you're kinda coming in it's also very weird too, 'cause it almost tracks like a biography kind of, like when it picks up David Duchovny's, Brian's, story after like, this comes into focus at the very end of the movie, like, when it kinda wraps up and there's a little bit there that was also very interesting, I think we'll get into that too. But that this had that was kinda the way that it bookended things, was I don't know,
Yeah.
it felt to me like an off a little bit it was made to be a little bit more of an offbeat movie, not quite I don't know. I don't quite know how to peg it, per
Yeah,
se, but I do know
yeah.
that, you do get a definite, she is kinda up and coming, or she's early career, and they're going up to California for their careers, essentially, like,
Mhm.
they're
Yeah.
but they're trying to get started, and, this kind of this monologue that Brian delivers of, "Hey, I wrote a magazine story. I know what that is like. I know what it's like to do this." He kinda has figured out how to turn one article into a book, or into a project that would become a little bit more later. Doesn't really have anything to do with the main story, but it's kinda set there in the background. It's kinda like setting the scene of, like, this guy can write, essentially. This guy he's
Mhm.
very cerebral, and he's very thinking, he's very positive, and he's very open and curious
Mhm.
about things that
Yeah.
would normally
Yes.
be kinda thrown off to the side, like serial killers.
But yeah, but he's got everything at a distance. He's at the time, very
That's right.
liberal thinking. We learn from a little party conversation that
That's what I
he's
was thinking.
looking
Yeah,
out. He's trying to look out and then look at the side of the serial killer, why he kills, and try
naivete.
yeah try to think of, well, maybe if he just had more hugs and kisses, he might be a little bit better boy. But yeah, it's oftentimes easier to have these more caring and um, forgiving opinions of things when everything is at a distance. It's not right outside your door, your window, so to speak. And so yeah, when he's so this movie's kind of posits the question, with this very liberal thinking person, would he feel the same way if the serial killer was sitting in the back seat with him,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
his girlfriend's more of a mystery. We know she takes pretty erotic photographs, and that there is a romance between them, but I didn't ever really buy the chemistry between David Duchovny and Michelle Forbes.
Mhm.
I did accept the romance between Early and Adele. I got
I
that relationship. I didn't ever really get
I
their relationship. It almost seemed like it was at the cooling off period.
well, I gotta say, Juliette Lewis, she
Mhm.
plays an excellent, excellent, um, opposite, like, what would be the opposite of
Mhm.
Kit and Holly,
Mhm.
from Badlands, but, like,
Mhm.
Juliette Lew I thought she played it very well. I kind of agree, like, I just think that Michelle Forbes, the way that she played her character, and kinda came off was a little bit more cold or
Yeah.
distant,
Yeah.
like,
Very
but
standoffish.
yeah, there's just a little bit
Mhm.
more of it made it h I could see where you're saying where it could be harder to kinda see these 2 be like a nat like, there is no, like, a natural kinda dynamic with them, like, it's whenever Michelle Forbes is on screen, just to be fair, I mean, she is an absolute stunning woman to look at anyway. I mean, so
Mhm.
I think that maybe that might have, or maybe I'm just projecting, I don't know, but anyway,
Yeah.
suffice to say, she knows how to steal a scene, just not quite, in the right way that again, this movie is offbeat, and it's kinda meant to be a little bit, that way, I don't know. It doesn't it's just it's a little bit more scary in some ways because this is like whereas, like other movies, there's like some kind of a something around it, a ritual philosophy, a something, you know, despite the fact that I just kind of said Badlands didn't have kind of like a rhyme or reason to the killing, it did fit in with, with the Kit's, rebel, that rebel, beautiful poetry kind of thing like
Mhm.
going on that thing, obviously his way, his psycho
Right.
way, but whereas, uh, Brad Pitt, I mean, Earl Grace, he has, I mean, it's a real danger with him because it just,
Mhm.
if you are even like 3 inches of a problem for him or 3 feet, it doesn't matter that it's low and like normal people would just step over it. He'll kill you. I mean, it's just, there is no safety. There is no that's, I think, I don't know anyway, but, the did you also catch the teeth brushing scenes too? Like, I thought that was kinda I don't know, anyway, I'll throw it back to you, that a little bit of a offbeat thing.
Was it yeah, he was always kinda and doing that, wasn't really a cough, and it wasn't really, a weird kind of, vocal thing that he would do.
It was
Um
part of his, like, accent or brogue with the character or whatever that kinda
Right,
went, like,
yeah.
with the, like, I don't and that's the kinda the other thing is, like, I got that he was a dumb, kind of poorly educated, I'll say, maybe not dumb, but
Well, a lot of it was an act, to kinda
right.
throw people off, much like,
Oh, that's true.
yeah,
I didn't think
Kip
of
in Badlands, it's sort of, his way of, disarming people to make them assume, less of him.
right.
He was always kinda he has this calculating mind, and he is planning, although he isn't very bright in, his planning, is very, impulsive, like you said, of who he kills, is sort of, just yeah, okay, I'll kill that person. He doesn't have a long game plan. You can't see him, doing this for very long. He's not good at covering up his kills.
Well, no, and kinda to kinda pull in and kinda, compare him, when he was in The
Mhm,
Badge, in Seven, he's very clean cut, idealistic, he believes in justice, whereas Earl Grace is just greasy, he's just a man moving through the world, and
mhm,
things happen when he comes through, not good things, and Early is the, Earl Early is he's the thing that civilization
mhm,
that built to contain. He's the
mhm,
reason why prison
mhm.
exists. Whereas, the hero, the cop, the noble cop or the idealistic cop, that's what hopefully you would have a product of he would be the product of civilization to protect the innocent, obviously. Anyway, but, yammer on that. I was gonna say too, yeah, it's just with the kills and the teeth brushing thing, I don't know, this is kind of a thing that popped up. I don't know, if you saw that at all, or if
Mhm.
the
Yeah, yeah, I noticed him brush his teeth a lot. Was he trying to make himself clean? Also, it was those doors. You remember them doors? Them doors I was talking about, Brad. He was interested in dimensional doors.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's very opportunistic. But yeah, to take it back to like say the beginning, I thought they kind of blew their wad at the beginning by showing that he was a killer. I thought it would probably have been a better thing if maybe they had started the movie with them meeting up to go
Right.
driving. That would probably be the more interesting start of the movie. Maybe them picking them up and meeting for the
Yeah,
first time, and then do kind of
agreed.
flashbacks to maybe fill out the story as their other stuff, because it kind of was kind of almost a dry beginning where you were setting up all the characters and whatnot. And
I'm
so the fact that he was a killer, it was obviously, very much demonstrated at the beginning, so there was no mystery there. There might have been more of a fun thing for the mystery of him, whether or not is he or isn't he a killer,
right.
to be kind of playing with us at the beginning, maybe for the first 20-30 minutes, and then it be revealed that he's a
Well,
serial killer. That would have been probably a more
I
interesting way of doing it.
yeah, I agree with you from the other side of it, like, the start, I don't think was very good. Because you kinda come into this movie and it's rainy and it's, there's some things, going on and whatnot, and then you kinda transition over to this thing of, like, where, it's just a party and you meet these characters and you meet
Mhm.
they're photographing a murder scene or physically go actually, he's the writer, she's the
Yeah.
photographer. I mean, he
Mhm.
might snap a picture here or there. I mean, it's kind of implied that he snaps pictures, but not like her. Not like
Mhm.
her. She has the eye for the thing, and then, he'll make little quips and comments that kind of make sense, but it's, like, really early on, and then, eventually we get to the part to, like, where the road trip happens, and it's like, again, I think this movie kind of false it kinda gives you a feint. I think it kinda goes in one direction, then it goes in a completely different one, and one that you
Mhm.
were not necessarily expecting per se, or
Uh-huh.
maybe one that you not necessarily that you would call out or guess, or would impinge on your enjoyment of the film, I would say, but are they, are these characters running away from something? Obviously, that's true
Mhm.
with one of our characters here who he just can't keep his hands to himself, and he doesn't really
Uh-huh.
care, but he knows that he's not gonna be here because rent's due, and he didn't have time for that, so
Right. Yeah, they kinda set up his parole officer as a character, and then they kinda quickly abandoned him. I thought he would be maybe pursuing them throughout the movie, but no.
or have
Yeah,
some kinda
there's
pressure that you would get,
Yeah,
like we got with
yeah.
Badlands eventually that was kind of always out there,
Mhm,
but never
mhm.
quite, was there until it did, or was
Yeah,
important for the story anyway.
yeah, and, it kinda the fact that he was covering serial killers, I got the sense that these were made up serial killers for the most part, except for the Black Dahlia. The locations that they were going to weren't, I couldn't piece together an actual serial killer,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah.
think I think that they were just in universe, kinda
Yeah.
thing. I did have a note here though that, they had did the way that they did like a fun fact kinda thing was like they named some like Bradbury, like they named them after the 4 actors, like,
Yeah,
part
saw
of the
that.
name that which was kinda cool, but again, again, it kinda goes back to like where there's a movie here and then you start on the path and then you kinda diverge from it a little bit more and it's kinda like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't lose you. It didn't lose me, but I think that it could have been a little bit stronger had it been able to complete, some of the more finer details. Like, because it
Yeah.
does have good details.
Yeah, I would have liked a more of a connective tissue between maybe
Right.
the serial killers he was looking into. Because yeah, when they would go there, they didn't really go into much of the
Like,
killings
yeah, just
or
kinda, like,
yeah,
dropping in and these people do
yeah,
this, and it's kinda like,
yeah.
"Well, why?"
Yeah, and, they did play around with it with, early kind of, giving his takes on things, but it would've been interesting maybe if he was, yeah, if Early had, like, a better grasp of the serial killers than, David did, and there might have been they did do, like, a bonding scene with the pool thing, but, they didn't go all in on any direction that they could have taken. It was sort of a kinda wishy-washy. They would touch upon things and then back away,
Well
and then go this way and then go that way.
just like Michelle, okay, like, or Michelle Forbes, like, Carrie,
Mhm, mhm.
Brian's, girlfriend, she is the only one, like, that seems to have functioning instincts. Like,
Yeah.
when they're in the car, like, 'cause she's constantly seeing little thing she's seeing reality,
Mhm,
and Brian's in a different mode. He's just in a different he's not
mhm,
necessarily party mode, but he's in car trip mode, and he wants to he has this bond with Earl. That for sure comes
mhm,
through, and is believable, I think,
mhm,
to a certain degree. It's more of, like,
mhm,
not I don't know, it's a weird kind of fascination, but that's kind of the point of the film that there's this fascination with this thing, these classifications of humans that no longer become humans, arguably, because in his own
mhm,
party, the guy's like, "No, dude, they're
mhm.
evil." Let me shortcut it for you. And he's just like, "Well, and this is early in the movie that I'm talking about, the party scene that, like where the Tom had mentioned before for the audience sake,
Mhm,
but he kind of talks about, well, in the right medical setting, and if they have this and that, like you said,
mhm.
like if they had more hugs and kisses and it's like, "No, dude. No, dude, some people are just fucking evil, period," Like, that's kind of the
Yeah.
shortcut, and I don't know that th again, this movie serves up things like that, and then it kinda
Mhm,
right on the nose of it, too, it it kinda takes away a little bit more of the anyway, going back to Michelle, and it just seems to, like, where she has these functioning instincts, and she can see things, for as they
mhm,
are, but then, you're kinda putting this thing and it kinda gets scooted off the side, but also the way that she is portrayed, like, just the way that the distance is from her as her character in general, it doesn't connect. It doesn't again,
mhm,
like, I agree with you in the connective tissue, like, just some of the things that you were
mhm,
would be there
mhm,
that would help build the tension, and
mhm.
some of these things are not needed because the tension builds anyway. Just because you're just careening you're kinda careening from one thing to another, but anyway, there is no thought to the violence. It's reactive. It's very reactive. I mean, I think Brian or excuse me, Earl, he has his trigger point is more of a, like, um like he can see ahead what he's gonna do because he knows what his next 2 or 3 moves are, and you don't get too far beyond that. I mean, I do agree with you. And I guess I didn't pick up on it so much, but he does kind of have like a again, he's not dumb, but he's it's kind of
Mhm,
like a put on, if anything.
mhm. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll pull back there and see what
Yeah.
your thoughts are for her and how, it's
Mhm.
like, how's she the only one that sees the you know?
Yeah, and she has this weird, there's also a weird attraction to him as well that sort of kinda, looking at him kinda sideways, and he picks up on that too, but,
Oh, there
he takes it a little too far.
well well and there's also kind
Uh-huh,
of like there's also a scene in the movie
mhm,
too, like, where that
mhm,
is kind of that tension is pulled out and shown
uh,
directly.
uh-huh,
He is intimate with his girlfriend, and they're in the car or whatever, and then here
mhm,
she
yeah.
is, whatever, kind of like being she's the voyeur, which
Uh-huh,
makes you absolutely buy from her because of kind of like the other things that happen, because she kinda gets a rush and a turn on for
mhm,
from something about this world or something about that or whatever, because they kind of
mhm.
allude to it. But anyway, like, so there is that kind of thing. Again, there are bits and pieces that kind of go out, but it's like a faint and they don't do anything with. I mean, they it builds the tension, I guess, to the story, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things in the oven on this movie, but a lot of them kind of come out half baked. They're not fully formed. Not that I say this not that this is a bad movie. It's enjoyable. It's a popcorn movie. I would say that yeah, it's fun to watch. The performances are great. Brad Pitt's uh I'd say, I was reading Roger Ebert really loved their performance, Brad Pitt and Juliette Lewis. He said it
They
was
were pretty
one
good.
of the best performances in the movie. I don't know if that's true, but Brad Pitt, I think it's almost very teetering on ham, but he pulls it off. There's
Mhm.
at times where it's almost gets a little hammy, but not quite. But he is fun to watch. He does chew up the scenery when he's in it. Juliette Lewis is very charming as the dumb girl. We didn't get to know Lucy the cactus very well. She died very early on. I would have liked a little bit more of Lucy, but we did see Lucy 2 show up a couple of times. But yeah, whereas I don't know if obviously David Duchovny's character is sort of supposed to be like the counterbalance. He's more of the calming nature, the every guy that you're supposed to kind of put yourself into, but
Kind of,
yeah,
but it's not
but
even
yet
that for this movie anyway.
no, yeah, he's sort of a kind of a kind of weak-willed sort of
Well,
kind of, you never really get into you're he's kind of coming from a very, innocent or, naive place with serial killers. You never really buy into his perspective.
Do you and again, that kinda keeps the audience from connecting with him and making that stick a little bit more. That's the stickiness of,
Mhm.
like, films that
Yeah.
you would normally have, but do you think that Brian is an idiot or something, or is he something worse?
He's
Because
naive.
I kept what's that?
He's naive.
Yeah, well, I kept going back and forth on it too, like, he's smart enough to write the book, but he can't see what's next sitting next to him,
That's
whether
another reason why I can't see why
well,
Michelle Forbes is into this guy because
again, this is what I'm saying. Yeah, this is what I'm saying,
she's
like, this is where I'm saying, like, where the movie isn't full and complete on the parts that
Mhm.
it needs to be
Mhm.
better on. Anyway, and I'm not this criticism isn't that this movie sucks at all. It's
No.
just that there's just kind of finer points here that it could have
Mhm.
finished on, and I think that this was not David Duchovny's best ever performance, but, I mean, it was good. It's just I would go so far as to say, like Brad Pitt, Juliette Lewis, like they were perfect. They were good. They were good. Maybe, maybe Duchovny and Forbes could have been different. You would have had maybe a little bit more of a stronger movie, I will just say, had
Mhm.
maybe the right people, actor and actress in that would be a very fun discussion. I would not be qualified to have it, but it would be
Uh-huh.
fun to kinda plug in other people and see what you get. Again, you don't get a bad it's not a bad movie at all. It's just, there's a little bit more of the psycho thing going through here. There's a little bit more of the voyeur thing. There's a little bit more of,
Yeah.
like, I think that not that naivety, like that innocence, so to speak, from from Brian is kind of supposed to set the tone, but
Mhm.
it's a different feeling when it's very masculine and it's also kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Slow to pick up slow to pick up the clues that are obviously in front of your face.
Mhm.
But, like, if you didn't have that, some of those things you can argue and justify and say, "Well, he's a writer, so he
Mhm.
doesn't want he's getting close to his" I don't know, it's just I don't know, it's just
Yeah.
different.
Like I said, there's a lot of ideas in here that don't get fully formed. Yeah, yeah, I liked Brad Pitt's character. He's one of those overly male guys. You've met this guy either in high school or at work or at the bar where the guy's kind of like a powder keg. He's nice to you, but you know that if you say the wrong thing, he's gonna possibly blow up at you. You've been around this guy. Yeah, he might not be a serial killer, but you've known this guy. Same thing with Adele. You've known a woman kind of like this that's sort of naive like that. That's kind of childlike. But yeah, so
Well,
they're realistic characters. You've seen these people
yeah,
in real life, maybe not to the extent that they are, but yeah, that's kind of what makes it engaging
it is.
movie. It kind of keeps you going through that. Yeah, it's an enjoyable movie that you get to kind of turn on and turn your brain off and watch it. But it's kind of disappointing in the fact that there were some interesting ideas though, where if they had developed them a little bit more, it could have been more of a interesting. One of the things I did find on Wikipedia when I was reading about it. Tim Metcalf, he wrote the screenplay with Stephen Levy, and the Dominic Sena, he had got the rights to the movie
Mhm.
and was trying to do rewrites with Tim, with the producers. They're asking for all these things where they added in the whole thing with David or Brian being a writing about serial killers. That was added to the script, and they kept getting dissatisfied with Tim's rewrites of it, so they fired him, and Dominic Sena and the producers rewrote the movie, and so it's what it is today. The I was reading where Tim Metcalf is very dissatisfied with California as it is. He stated that the original screenplay was more of a dark comedy with Hitchcockian suspense. It wasn't overly violent. I would have been kind of interesting to see what that original script was. Not that it was
I
any better. It might have been. Who knows? Because
Yeah, well,
he says that much like how I wanted it to be, Early wasn't known as the killer right away. In their version, that there was more of a suspense on
a little bit more of
is
a
he, isn't
wind up,
he, kind of thing.
right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Well, and there are certain again, the way that you put it is good. I look for the movies that do good connective tissue through, that they have good world building, mainly the world building and kind of that atmosphere of that, like where it's just so excellently represented in Badlands. You get it.
Mhm.
In other, even more so in other films, but that direct translation is met. You have the complete vision, and it feels like and again, this is not a bad thing, but this was, Dominic Sena's first at bat, and it's not bad at all, but I believe that he came from music videos. So you mentioned Belle Biv DeVoe, not quite that one, but Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation, that's him. That was him. He was also
Okay, okay.
co-founder of yeah, he was also co-founder of Propaganda Films, and that's the
Mhm,
production company that also housed David Fincher's early work, Spike Jonze and Michael Bay.
mhm,
That's not a
mhm,
coincidence. And you can almost see some of that the same visual school that controlled the image obsessed,
Mm.
the atmosphere first
Mm.
filming, the frame that has, you know, that you have this before the dialogue is delivered, and they do that, they do that at, point on the head in this one. It's just that for me, it just doesn't quite carry the level of heaviness or gravitas as like, say, a David, Fincher, you know,
Mhm.
or whatever, but, you know,
Mhm.
also at that time, you had Natural Born Killers that came out that it competed against too, True Romance, like, those all kinda broke out around the same time. So,
Mhm.
this film really kinda had a deck stacked against it anyway, even though I think it was a good debut, for
Mhm.
Cena, but anyway,
Yeah.
I'll throw it back to you and,
Yep,
uh
yeah. I guess I'm getting kinda musical. You told me about that, and, so, yeah, we should do a redo of, David DeVoe's Poison, go, "Early is poison." But, no, speaking of the soundtrack, I gotta say, that last song in the movie, the ending credits song, let's see, let me
I do
find it.
not dude,
Look Up at the Sky by, the Indians. I really enjoyed that song. That was a bit of a banger at the end there. Enjoyed that quite a bit. I was also gonna say that, DC Comics was commissioned to do a comic book adaptation written by Chuck Dixon and, art
mhm.
by Duncan Fegredo, but yeah, that never did, get published. I think it was supposed to be have a supplemental comic book for the video, the DVD release of it, but Gramercy Pictures was kind of, the demise of that studio, kind of made that kind of get lost. So,
Oh, yeah, that was a good song. Sorry, I just had to play it first, so, you know. No, yeah, that was a very good, yeah, well, I mean, these kind of films and things, like, they can absolutely have little piece of history that are slid in that maybe a little bit, they don't eclipse the movie, sometimes they do, but they are, very interesting. And I was just gonna say that you love the music to video, to feature pipeline. You know, Fincher did it, and so did Cena did it. Spike Jonze did it. You know, is there something to kinda keep it going with the music? You know, do you think that there's something about that training ground, when you do
well,
that, that produces a better debut film
Well
or films?
filmmakers, always find a way, like, Red Letter Media made a good point, like, say, back in the day, when Spielberg and those guys, George Lucas, were doing, kind of prepping themselves to become filmmakers, they had their, home video cameras, and they were making their little home movies and kind of bit their teeth into things and found how to make movies, through that, and then that the my generation was sort of like, the doing the music videos, to get kinda into the, there's different ways of getting into filmmaking, and, there's the music, video sort of way, like Richard Stanley, we've covered some of his movies like Hardware and Dust Devil. He started out with, music
Mhm,
videos as well.
that's true. Yeah,
Today it's all about, YouTube. There's all
right.
these YouTube, directors and
That is true.
movies that are coming out, but that's just sort of like
Backrooms.
the where they can cut their teeth on it, that's where you could get your stuff out there, and
Mhm.
they're not really not really influencers in the traditional YouTube sense of things, but yeah, it's just a avenue to get into, making film. There's always going to be finding a way, way into it. You're not going to be making home movies with a video camera now.
Yeah,
It's constantly evolving on where the creative output is being directed,
right,
based on what's what's at your fingertips. So who knows what, the future holds for, future filmmakers, but yeah,
sure.
they're always gonna kind of find a way.
Well, I agree with you. It's the kids that are learning how to make AI do whatever the hell AI does, or whatever the hell you
Mhm.
can do with AI and whatever content. I have no clue, but I'm not talking about slop. I'm talking about the kids that
Mhm.
they get enough reps in, they get enough cycles in, they get enough practice in, that their practice, is such a high level, that it's just, they take off, and then they go from there. I was gonna kinda pull back to, I kinda had I didn't I in some ways, I had a hard way to connect to this film. I didn't really get a message or a theme or I mean, outside of, like, obviously genre thing, but, like, I guess one of the things I had kinda had a harder
Mhm,
time, and I was gonna bounce it off you and see
mhm,
if you did too, was the
mhm,
fact that, you know, this it kinda felt like David, by proxy is us, the audience, and we're kinda put in there. It doesn't mesh gears to me very well
mhm,
because it's kinda like you're more in the seat of Carrie, and
mhm,
so and you're more connected to Carrie, and you're more connected to Adele, I would argue, than you are
mhm,
with Brian. That just didn't lead anyway, the point is that, you know, I think California it sits in between Badlands, and, you know, like, something like Natural Born Killers, which we didn't get to, on the spectrum of, like, Psycho, you know, because
mhm,
it's I felt like it was a lot more this was a lot more on the nose, on the head, more direct, more explicit than Malick, but it was quieter than Oliver Stone's,
mhm,
work, there. Like, this way, it's kinda like the middle voice, like, where it's saying, "The problem isn't the media, and the problem isn't Hollywood, the problem is you."
yeah,
Because you through Brian, through our fascination with murder, you bought the ticket, you know, you picked up the
mhm,
hitchhiker, and now look where you are, you know, the consumer
mhm,
gets consumed. Think that's what it was trying to do? What do you think? I mean, do you think that that was
mhm.
kind of like where it was driving for, or I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, Tim, says when he originally wrote the script, it was, his kinda examining his fascination with, killers, murderers, and, why is he obsessed with that? And, is that a good thing? So, yeah, there was sort of like a nucleus as far as what the original script was. I think with them adding what they did to it and kinda changing it, probably muted the point, maybe kind of
Right.
blurred it and kind of made it what it is. They wanted more of a summer thriller, kind of psychological thriller movie, that you got your popcorn, you kind of forgot about after you got out of the theater. But which basically is kind of what it is, but there is sort of like a German, it's sort of like, there's elements to the movie that could have been kind of, explored more. Yeah, you kind of, gravitate toward Carrie, but Carrie's sort of like a kind of a cold fish, a kind of a blank slate that, or,
Yeah.
she kinda kept everybody at a distance, so you're kinda reluctant to kinda go into that character. But yeah, she would be
Well,
the
including the
natural
audience,
one.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. The audience,
Yeah.
and the audience wants to go to David, but he's such a doofus that you kinda don't
Well,
can't really,
actually,
go to
let
him.
let me ask you this because yeah, I remember you had said this in 7. You compared, excuse me, give me my thoughts. You compared, um, uh, if the movie was more about Brian or if it's more about early.
Mhm,
And I think that, I mean, Brad Pitt is absolutely he owns every scene that he's in.
mhm,
But the thesis seems to be more on Brian's character, you know,
mhm.
this
Yeah.
intellectual tourist idiot of Violet
Mhm.
Fool would be actually fool would be a better word. This fool that's just walking around,
Mhm,
just oblivious to ignorance is bliss. But
mhm.
that parallels what I was getting to was what you argued about in 7, which was the films really is about, Freeman's, Somerset, not Pitt's,
Right,
who
yeah.
played the cop. It's more about
Yeah.
the older guy than it is about
Mhm,
the younger guy.
mhm.
Do you think that way about this?
Well, see, it would if they had played it a little bit better, if they would have
Ah,
made
I
if
agree. Yeah,
well, they
right on the
we
money.
never really know much about Carrie, so yeah, like I said, this movie's kinda wishy-washy. It kinda dips its toe a little bit here in the one scene, dips its toe a little bit here in this
Right.
scene. There's not like a clear vision and clear focus of, who you needed to be following and who you should be relating to, whereas I think with 7, it's a little bit more, it's subtle, but yeah, you definitely gravitate towards Somerset, in that movie, and he's not the maybe the moral center, but the center that kind of gravitate towards. He's gonna no matter what, he's gonna make his way through the movie, you know? He's gonna
Right.
he has the wherewithal and the wisdom to make it through. But yeah, in this movie, there's these guys are clues. Also, a little bit little spoilers here, so skip ahead if you don't want to be spoiled with the ending. I won't say exactly how it ends, but
There is an ending here. There is an
there
ending.
there is
A conclusive ending. Yeah.
and a little epilogue there. I think
What were they doing?
I didn't like the epilogue.
I don't
They would not have been together.
I don't
They would not
that's
have
what
they
I
would not have stayed together.
I I honestly, I had to rewatch it. I had because it was so because it was like when the part ends, when the movie, like, maybe 2 minutes later it ends, it's got another 7 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it is. And it's like, what could possibly be, you know? And I honestly thought, 'cause it kinda breaks and this is we're far enough along, and this is a 30-year-old movie, whatever. So, normally we wouldn't whatever, but this is worth it. The epilogue doesn't again, it goes back to what I've been saying, you concurred on, which is, as we co-explore this thing, which is the epilogue didn't make it at first, I honestly thought that she was gonna break up with him.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
that's what it felt like.
Uh,
It felt like because it's like and even the dialogue gives away that it's November. It's like
mhm,
after their ordeal, after they're healed up, they even took pains to put the details on the wounds and the healing. You could see that these guys had
mhm,
maybe healed or were in the process of healing. Fucking no, there was no emotional grounding in any of that of those scenes whatsoever.
mhm.
Like the humanity that even if you wanted to feel it just whooshed out. Like, it's just kinda like, I don't know that it's November. I kinda get that it's cold on the beach. I don't know that she went, but she did go anyway,
Mhm.
it just they kinda come up and they kinda have a moment, and I think it is supposed to be like this intimate kind of closing moment of, like, these people kinda sorta learn something, or they really did start with a thesis.
Mhm,
I don't pay the problem is that the thesis is so far away from you, you don't give a shit about it, because
mhm,
by the time you get to the point to, like, where they actually have a real experience with the damn thing,
mhm,
it's hollow. It's immune because then it shifts from the thesis shifting from one thing at the beginning of the film, again, we're in spoiler territory, so it is what it is, to, "Oh, I have figured out that, like, it is different when I kill, when a normal person kills, or they're
mhm,
made to kill because they have to defend or
mhm.
protect, they have it, but the difference is that we feel remorse." Are you fucking kidding me? No, no, like, I mean,
Yeah,
that's probably the most that
yeah,
it pulls out is kinda like I wouldn't say it kinda pulls it out into like a "what the fuck," but it just kind of like a trailer. It's having somebody walk you into start to give you a tour of
mhm.
the house, and they only give you a tour of the living room, and then they just kinda and then they just go, "What?"
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I'll pause there and I'll let you load up and take
mm,
your shot if you want to.
yeah. Yeah, they should end it right when, Brian and, Early has their final scene,
That had more
yeah,
emotional weight, honestly, than
yeah,
anything like that.
yeah,
That was actually, like, you could actually see that they were human, that, like, Jesus Christ, Brian, like,
mm.
yeah, and then anyway,
But yeah, it's sorta like, yeah, they should have rolled credits there, but then, um well, yeah, I could almost hear the producers and the director's ear going, "But you can't really call a movie California if you don't actually get to California." So like, you gotta have your payoff scene at the end in
yeah,
California.
it
So,
it
but yeah, it's
it's
disingenuous. It almost seems like a, someone's dreaming this, because it doesn't feel realistic. In most cases, when a couple goes through a traumatic traumatic experience, say a loss of a child, or something that very traumatic. 90% of those couples don't make it, and this couple wasn't built to last to begin with. So the fact that they're happy in California, evidently. Brian's written a big massive book, even though it looks like he's still in the mix of writing the book. But with the house and everything, you have to assume that he's published a book and has made a lot of money off of it. But with how they're living, and then I guess she's still struggling as a photographer. She gets this letter about a big show for her or
Gallery in
something. Yeah,
Venice. Yeah,
gallery.
yeah. She's gonna
So
go
yeah,
up to wherever, up the coast
yeah,
or down the
yeah.
coast or whatever the hell they're at,
Yeah,
or
yeah, it's like, what,
okay,
why are we caring about this? What is this?
right. Well,
What's the
that's
point?
what that's why that whole scene felt like it felt like a letdown or a breakup or something. Like it just and it wasn't necessarily that. I mean, maybe there's somebody smarter than me that put together, but it almost is like I mean, the
I
whole
want to,
kind of
I want
point.
to, I want to early with this busted face to rise up into one of the windows and go, "I'm back."
Yeah, yeah, it had to be all bloody and like all like right before right after he got hit in the head with a shovel, like right,
Yeah, he goes, "I found the door, Brian. I
right,
found the door."
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like that just like it's just not very good. I mean, again, Michelle Forbes is a stunner, not, but just the wrong kind of vibe. And the other thing too is she had that stylized kind of that short black kind of bob haircut or whatever that it became famous later on with I remember several years later Uma Thurman. Like I think when she played opposite of John Travolta, I think her hair was black. I maybe anyway.
Mhm.
It's like a stylistic choice, and there are stylistic things here, but they're kind of set up there, and you're like, "Are you going to do anything with that?" And nothing materializes with it, and then it just goes. It sounds like we didn't like the movie, but I mean, I just think that I think that it does.
I will say, Early is a pretty decent hairdresser. That's
Yeah,
Carrie did fix it all, but I think he did a fine job. Although,
yeah,
yeah, it kind of shows you he's kind of obsessed with Carrie, but
yeah. I think you're right.
he has many talents.
Yeah, yeah, it does kinda like Brad Pitt, it does a very good job. Obviously, he steals, every scene he's in. He owns the scenes that he's in, and it's not like David again, I don't think there was any bad acting per se. I just think that,
Yeah.
just this it just felt like a lot of things put in that try to do things that it did maybe one thing 80%, and then everything else it did to 60%, and then
Yeah.
you get the full and complete story of this thing of like this guy Brian, he's very intellectual, and then when he's put in the seat, you just kind of think of like,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah.
it's like like
Although my favorite characters in this movie again was Lucy the cactus and Brian's earring. Those two were spot on, spot on. I
but
love those.
well, you kind of get to the epilogue, and it's kind of just like, okay, so he retires, so like he made it and he retires, like he just I guess I would want to be by, and I was really trying hard to put myself in that position. Like, okay, well, if I had faced this traumatic thing and I was still with the person that was my partner, but we experienced this, maybe that's a good sign. Maybe I want to be by the beach because it's just peaceful or something. But then you kind of look at the scene and you watch it again, and it's like it's there,
Right.
but
Yeah, it doesn't
it's
make sense because
there, but it's
it,
not there. It
yeah,
doesn't get there.
evidently he's a successful writer. He wrote a book about on his experience here, but why does he still have all of his research material all out in front of him? Why isn't that packaged away? Why isn't there like a book? You should have had like the book that he wrote sitting on the desk. Maybe he's kind of paging through it, thinking about things, and he does the little voiceover that really doesn't say a whole lot. But yeah, and then but you had to have, but they
Well,
wanted to have that little
but
tape playing of Early, and then the surprise appearance of Adele again saying, "Oh,
well,
I had such a great time."
right. No, she's fucking coming in melancholy off the fucking, off the great beach or whatever. Like, anyway, it like, it also, like, for him, like, like, I dig hard on this character because it was just hard to it was hard to give him to be serious with him, like, when he played the fool so very well, and then it's like, "Well, no shit, Sherlock. Yeah, it is different when we fucking kill because we have a conscience."
Yeah.
Which
Right,
goes
yeah.
back to the thing because again, the party scene and part I wouldn't say it ruined the movie, but it didn't help. It didn't help when you have the guy there. The things that it does play on the head, it does pretty well. But then you have things
Mhm.
like that, like where it's like his friend is like, "No shit, dude," because they're
Mhm.
evil. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
there's no good tension that came from that, that
Yeah.
attitude to the thing. It
Right,
just
yeah.
kind of it just kind of said that like we're basically going to have this conversation again a few times over this film, and that then the
Mhm.
conversation never really kind of changes. It doesn't really
Right.
bring anything new. Although
Yeah.
the towards the end, I think they were trying to say something or connect the dots, but it
Yeah.
just didn't materialize.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
does
like I
have a
said,
beginning, a middle,
everything's
and an end for sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, everything's kinda a little half-baked. Like I said, there's no through line. They never get to the point or develop it far enough to, make it kind of, make you go, "Oh, I see. That's a very clever point."
I,
No,
I,
it's always kinda like surface level stuff that never gets including the name of the movie. Like, I always was kinda curious why they spelled California with a K. There was always that rumor about, California didn't wanna be named after, have this serial killer movie named after their state or whatever. But yeah, I was reading on Wikipedia where they made a statement basically saying, "No, California didn't make us do that. We just did that because, well, we just did it," which not a very good reason, I guess. It kind of looks cool, and I always thought it was because of Killers, California. That kind of makes
yeah.
sense, but yeah, like I
I,
said, even the name of it's kind of half baked.
I I think that that you definitely get the Duchovny that you get is future Duchovny that, just the ladies melt over, like, just that cerebral kinda thing, like, I think this is more of a ladies movie, maybe, and obviously Brad Pitt is a direct winner, there, but it has I think that yeah, I think you're right, I think it does things to about to 60, 65, maybe 70%, and then it's kinda like, I'll go on to the next thing." But I do
Yeah,
think that what it does do well, the psycho, the you
yeah.
could just be sitting right amongst us, that's somewhere in between the psychopathic, has a master plan, and judges the world on everything versus, rebel poetry, just kinda just being young and just leaning into that so hard,
Mhm.
maybe a little too hard, and emphasizing putting value on the wrong things of youth versus like what the more bastardized version of that, what it looks like when it goes wrong. And this is just a guy who just knocked your head
Yeah.
in because you looked at him wrong. Again, like,
Mhm.
I go back to this, if you're a 3-inch problem or a 3-foot problem, normally you just step over it. You're at risk here of this guy just, of Grace just, being done,
Mhm.
done.
Yeah, and, it did have 2 big laughs for me. The first one and both of them are toward the end of the movie. The first one was, I'll just say the line, I won't spoil it, but what the scene's about, uh, well, now you are a widow, Peaches. And then, the other one was, when, Brian, Bri he's racing to save his lady love, from the evil serial killer, and he's driving he didn't take the extra 5 minutes to get the lady to find something to, maybe snap the
Handcuffs.
the handcuffs off of him. But he's racing, and, he going full tilt boogie, and, he the cars come out of nowhere for some reason for him, and he flies up and crashes the truck. That was hilarious as hell. Yeah, good one, Bry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they had to have him get there, but didn't. be unconscious long enough for what happens within the place. But yeah, is there like, yeah, yeah, kind of a knuckleheaded way of rescuing your lady. You might have
Well,
been a little bit more successful and avoided some trauma if you'd maybe stayed on the road, pal.
yeah, well, this also has, like, Brian is not the hero that Brian is not the boyfriend that
Mhm.
you want to have if you are the damsel in distress at all whatsoever. But,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe
He didn't arrange two of his letters in his name to get a brain.
yeah, well, I mean, he's not the guy that he's not the guy that you want, there, well, also, Brad Pitt is also not the guy that you want anywhere near you either, like,
Mhm,
but with that being said, it does do a good Brad Pitt is always good, to see, and it's also early Brad Pitt too, so he doesn't have the same kind of thing, but the level of seriousness that came from Brad Pitt later on, and also the successful not one of David Duchovny's, best movies, I think that's fair to say, but it does show the potential of their I can't say that I am super familiar with Michelle Forbes like I am with Juliette Lewis, but I know that everybody did go on to do some much better work, much better movies to enjoy. And then again, this movie is not bad at all.
mhm, yeah,
It's just not what it could be, or what it is not what it wanted to strive to be, and also, it came out at a time,
mhm.
and some of it is good. It's a good popcorn movie. I agree with Tom. Um,
Yeah, if you want a 90s, if you're in the mood for a 90s movie, you want that look, you wanted that look of a Belle Biv DeVoe video without Belle Biv DeVoe. I don't know why I got stuck on Bill Biv DeVoe, to be honest, I don't know. But yeah, if you want kind of that 90s a psychological thriller movie, that you kind of have to turn as you turn your brain off of. Maybe it runs a little bit longer than it should, but if you have the time and want to throw it on, that's not a bad thing, especially if it's on. I watched it on Hoopla, so if you can find it on a free streaming service, you could do far worse than maybe one of the original movies, a Netflix original movie. This is probably far better than any of those.
mhm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do think that this is a good one. I think that, like I said, there's just so many different things that they could have done well on if they picked one or two, like the highway. The fact that the highway would normally represent freedom, and you definitely got that with Badlands too. By the way, they nailed that hit that out of the park. But this one, not quite. Like they could have done something with the car as the cage, and they're on this thing, and they do play with that a little bit to be fair, but not to
Yeah.
the degree that like other Psycho movie cares, but it's still good, good enough for watching. It's certainly better than any kind of like schlock that you randomly end up with in having to watch that. But I think we've did a pretty good justice to this. Obviously, there are some strong parts here. And I think that we were probably focusing more on the ones that didn't work for us, but it still it still was good to watch, like a David Duchovny and a Brad Pitt video,
Mhm.
or movie early on in the '90s. So always a treat. Maybe not a great of a treat as like something like like Kevin Spacey flick or something like that, early '90s. But still, this didn't quite have the land the grab toss that it was trying to go for, but it still was good enough.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of those. I was looking at the little facts on Wikipedia and on IMDb. A couple of the people on IMDb got obsessed with the fact that David Duchovny later on did a television show called Californication, and this one's called
Uh,
California. That's a pretty interesting, I gotta say. I guess. Oh, that was another thing. The other big star of it was that damn portable, disposable pink camera. How many
oh, yeah, yeah,
shots?
yeah, yeah.
How many shots did that thing have on it? Because they only bought the one, and they
I
took
don't
like
know.
hundreds of pictures on that.
We
I want one of those.
yeah, yeah, like that again, the nostalgia thing is there.
Mhm.
The bones of the thing are there, buried deep in there. But yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
that
my favorite
interesting.
characters again, Lucy the cactus, David Bryce earring, and the pink camera. Yep, those are. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, no, I enjoyed, exploring this one, and,
Mm,
we'd be happy to, have you guys back, to
mhm.
catch, other things that we're gonna do. We have an upcoming, series for July as well as, going out through the rest of the year, so to stay
Meep,
tuned for that.
meep, meep.
Yeah, yeah, this one we're not gonna be so theoretical and cerebral, for where we're going. We're
Uh,
gonna be,
mhm.
tip of the spear, if you know what I mean, tip of the knife. I'll put it that way, would be a better way to put it, but, I've been ML.
I'm Tom, California,
Yeah.
city of Compton.
California.